Okay, so welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us this lovely morning, I guess if you're in New York like me, or afternoon for those of you joining from across the Atlantic. So today we have Researching the Rainbow Refugee Experience, which will be a presentation from some of our amazing students doing research on outcomes from the Dream Academy. We're going to begin with introductory remarks from Dr. Devin Thornburg, who will give us a bit of an overview of the Dream Academy and prime us for some of the presentations to come. Then we'll hear from three of our students doing work in this area, followed by two people with intimate knowledge and experience of the Dream Academy giving us their perspectives. And we'll conclude with Dr. Jody McBrien giving us some concluding remarks and wrapping up everything we talked about. So with that, I will give it over to Devin.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so pleased to see you. We've worked very hard to come to this day, and we will continue to work hard after this day. This is a work in progress, and we're very pleased to have you. If we had more time, we would introduce everyone on the call. At last count, we had about 40 people who had signed up to attend, so we'll just get started. My remarks will be brief because it's more important that you hear from people following me. Can you see my screen? So I would like to invite you to consider what we talk about from multiple levels. The more general one is, how does the work involving refugees and asylum seekers through a nonprofit partner in a way that's possible to maintain the integrity of the work in a university setting? It's a critical stance that I would like us to take in considering this. It's been a journey, I can put it that way, for several of us who are affiliated with universities, and it's not just Adelphi that has been the case. We have 3 universities, in fact, involved in the current research team, and you'll hear more about that from them as we go through. But for the partnership that has developed with Safe Place International, which is a nonprofit international organization doing refugee work, asylum seeker work, and I think even the language of refugee versus asylum seeker is something that is important to lift to a level of discourse and discussion, has involved a partnership with Adelphi through 3 different venues. The first is the School of Social Work, and on the call today is Professor Kyriakakis, who is part of the School of Social Work. She's a faculty member that has helped shepherd this partnership through student involvement that has included research from the previous year. She can certainly contribute something in the discussion. The second is the Livermore Global Scholars, which is, for those of you who don't know, an undergraduate program at the university that students take in their gen ed requirements that focus on global issues. We have a representative in the research team here today. There are a couple of others. And that curriculum and faculty support that is part of Safe Places work began to develop in 2020. And throughout all of that has been the support of the Innovation Center at the university, which is intended to focus on ways to develop partnerships in business settings as well as nonprofits. But once again, the tension between the resources and the focus and the allocation of work in a university setting, which has its own agenda, versus what happens in the field around refugee work, is an important thing to consider. This lady needs to be celebrated. She never gets talked about at all in any of these venues. Sherry Singh is on the call. She set this up with Ananya, who's on this call. The two of them have worked tirelessly to make this happen. We're all very proud to have her in every single research team meeting. And she really literally runs the Dream Academy sessions that you will hear about today. The other image on this call is Dolly, who is the Director of Global Initiatives within Safe Place. She is they are part of a very strong initiative out of Kenya to be able to create a Dream Academy program that has benefited from the remote learning that we're all in. And of course, there is an image of Adelphi, which looks rather staid given the kind of conversation that we're having here. The research has involved narrative analysis of the Dream Academy. This is something that we as a team have worked very long on. It is now in its 8th month, which I almost want to fall over. Having said that, it's a long process that has involved about 12 students, starting with a student in the School of Social Work and developing now into a team. The Dream Academy, however, just so you know, it started as an innovation in 2019 with the founder of Safe Place International, who appears on the screen on the left, Justin Hilton. Justin is a visionary. I don't know how else to put it, but his vision has developed a sense that what refugees and asylum seekers really would benefit from, aside from nonprofit work in supporting sheltering and food and healthcare, is an educational program that's going to empower them to become more integrated into the societies in which they live or go elsewhere. And that's the genesis of the Dream Academy. This is a program that is remote. It has a 10-session model that may change or maybe is in the process of changing now. But each of these days of sessions involves a different topic, a different focus. And we'll talk about what those look like. From the research side, it involved thinking about what does empowerment mean and how do the narratives of the Dream Academy members inform our work. And that's something that I think that we will hear from Dolly and David. David is also on the call. David is an asylum seeker who went through the Dream Academy and is now part of the leadership at Safe Place as well. So here are the components. In the upper image are the creators of a great deal of the work, Yvonne and Rich, affectionately known by everybody in the locations, Greece, Kenya, South Africa, and elsewhere as Mama E and Papa Rich. There is a way in which their work is central to the engine that drives what happens in the Dream Academy. I want to honor them. They are busy with the Dream Academy right now. The fact that Sherry is here is remarkable, given that the Dream Academy is happening right now. But it began in the spring of 2021 as a research agenda, which you will hear about today. We have received IRB approval. That's important for people to know. And it was not easy for Jody McBrien, who is my dear colleague and partner on this project, and I have learned. And we're very happy to have received that approval because it allows us to publish with these wonderful students from 3 universities who you will hear from today. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you for providing that context. Just briefly before we get into the students, Devin spoke about the partnership with Adelphi University, and I have been asked to share from Adelphi's Pride Committee, who are helping to co-sponsor this event, that today is marking the first day of Trans Month of Visibility, in which we will have month-long events related to issues surrounding the trans population. And so today starts that off. I'll be putting a link in the chat momentarily where you can see other events that are happening between now and April 10th, many of which happen in a virtual format, so you can join from anywhere in the world. Okay, so with that, let's turn to the meat and potatoes of today's session and allow our students the chance to introduce themselves and present the important work they've been doing. Before I introduce our first presenter, though, we will have some time for questions from those joining. What we're going to ask that you do if you have a question throughout a student's presentation is ping me in the chat function privately, and I will add you to the queue and make sure you have an opportunity to ask your question, just to help things flow a little bit more smoothly. So if you could just send me a private message, I will take note of that and ensure that you're able to ask your question after each student. So with that, I will introduce our first presenter as Shani. And so Shani, feel free to introduce yourself and share your screen and get into the amazing work you're doing.
All right, I'll start off by sharing my screen. Can you all see that? Okay.
We can.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Chani Liu. I'm currently a senior at Adelphi. I'm majoring in environmental science with a minor in food studies. And I'm also in the Livermore Global Scholars Program. And I feel like that's really where I got my interest into Safe Place. Also, both of my parents are refugees. So this is a topic that really hits home for me and kind of explains a lot. So what I decided to research today was the impact of emotional intimacy and vulnerability through a screen. Okay, so just for an introduction, COVID-19 has probably provided us with a lot of undesirable circumstances. Many of us have had the privilege to work from home and do school from home. And I don't know about a lot of you, but I probably spend about 50% of my day just staring at some sort of screen. And although I recognize this privilege, it could be the lack of direct interaction can be very lonely and lead to feelings of isolation. So even just focusing on the smaller things such as eye contact, proxemics, physical touch, full body appearances, and even just smell are completely lost to some extent. And there could be a lot of technical difficulties. It could be hard to hear people, Wi-Fi cutting out, movement in the background, and having cameras off is really limiting the amount of interaction that we have with people, and we aren't really sharing the same physical space. And as you can see the picture on the right, I don't know if a lot of you know about this case, but I think it was a court briefing and somebody just couldn't figure out why there's a cat on their screen. But yeah, so the increase in digital communication and the limitations that it's had on, people have been really burdensome for a lot of people around the world, specifically for LGBT refugees in general. Safe Place has really done a huge job of using technology as a tool to bring people together. And it's been really one of the most important assets of this whole process. So for the diaspora of refugees, and even more specifically, the LGBTQ refugees, they experience isolation in all stages of their asylum journey, whether it's from feeling disconnected from their family and friends, feeling ashamed for being part of this community or identifying as in this community. They also face discrimination from law enforcement. They're not really being protected in that way. And they're also seen as international outsiders when they enter other countries. So how can you really find people in this situation to confide in? How can you find solidarity? How can you find the confidence to keep going? And most importantly, how can you feel like you belong and that you're supported by a community? So in this presentation, I'm going to be explaining the tools used by the Dream Academy to encourage emotional intimacy and vulnerability in a digital setting, and the truly amazing outcomes that it's had for the community members. All right, so I'm going to talk about a brief overview of the Dream Academy. So there were 4 tracks I think it was from Monday to Thursday. So Monday is track 1, Thursday track 4, and so on in between. And each of them had, so Safe Place came out with like a report in the beginning, and it had kind of the intentions of each track. The track that I studied throughout mine was track 3, which is tools for PTSD management. And part of our research was how was Dream Academy able to achieve their goals in pursuing these different topics? How has it kind of been different? And what is the impact that it's had on the refugees? So although track 3 was more of PTSD management, I found that a lot of it embodied all 4 tracks. So it was more of how to be an activist, methods for self-expression, tips for success, and yeah. And throughout our studies, the way that we were able to analyze the data was all of us were manually transcribing the videos. And some of us actually had the opportunity to go into the sessions in person on Zoom. And then from there, we were able to analyze the transcript, find similar themes, common words that were coming up. And yeah. Okay, so moving forward. So how has the Dream Academy really created a safe place, safe space for the refugees, hence the name Safe Place International? So that most days they have brought in a mentor, and a lot of them are really inspiring activists, successful educators. So a huge part of that was storytelling, you know. A lot of the guests who were coming in were saying all the struggles about their experiences and how that's led them to where they are today. How are they able to transform their experience of adversity and become leaders that they are today? And I found that was very inspirational for a lot of the members to see. Also, words of affirmation. So I often hear a lot of times people saying, I hear you, I love you, I care about you, I understand where you're coming from. And I feel like that really made people more comfortable, more willing to open up about their experiences as well. And I think a huge symbol of Safe Place is this I love you sign. So I actually took sign language in high school for like about 6 or 7 years. I've never seen I love you so much ever in sign language. So I feel like this is something that's huge. It's something that like you don't have to, unmute yourself. Like whenever I feel like it brings a lot of people together, and like you can just see the support in the room when you see this sign. So yeah. And next, movement and deep breathing. I think almost every single session in track 3 that I've seen, we had somebody open up the session with yoga and some type of breathing exercise. And I feel like it really brings awareness back into yourself. And it kind of affirms to everyone, like, we're all here together, And next, feeling comfortable to share your own struggles and weaknesses, I think is a huge deal of vulnerability. So next. So the Dream Academy has been able to form a community of LGBTQ refugees through embracing intimacy, interrelationships, and love. So here's a quote from one of the community members. So I think if we keep with this, what we have from the Dream Academy, I think we're going to change a lot of people's hearts, a lot of people's lives, and people are not going to feel lonely anymore because we have found ourselves sharing the same life with other people throughout Africa. And these stories they have been sharing to us have changed us, and they have made us know that we are not alone in what we are going through. I feel like this quote really embodied kind of like the huge outcome that refugees have had. They recognize that they're not alone in their struggles and that they're going to do more to really make sure other people are not struggling as well. Okay, so here are some certain tools that track 3 has had. So as I kind of mentioned before, a lot of mentors came in every single session, shared their stories about how they were activists, how they were marginalized in their own communities. And I felt like it really brought inspiration because community members were able to see the same similarities despite different identities that mentor might have had. In addition, resources. So a lot of these mentors are kind of like experts in their fields, whether it be writing or photography. You know, if they had a special interest in these things, they were able to reach out to these mentors. Yeah. The next one is tools for career building. I feel like even the simplest things, such as setting goals for yourself, how to manage your time, recognizing your weaknesses as a leader, and recognizing your strengths as well, and how to curate that. And next, how to be an activist. I think there's a lot of complexity in, you know, trying to be an activist, understanding what do you stand for, how do you want to present yourself in the world, were a lot of questions that came up from community members themselves. Okay, so here I'm just going to, from now on, explain some of the outcomes that track 3 has had on community members that I found. So one of them was confidence and expansion of self-expression. So gaining confidence to express individuality and feelings to others through exploring and strengthening artistic forms that mirror their inner selves while analyzing different social perspectives. So some examples of forms of creativity that I have seen are writing, photography, painting, drawing, singing, um, and social media was a big one as well. So just some highlights from different quotes that I've seen is, I think to me as a musician, art speaks to the emotional, the song lyrics and beats give you time to breathe, and it's what calms me down. And another one is that I think that art speaks volume and speaks 1,000 words into different aspects. Okay, another one was seeing the humility and vulnerability from people. So here's another quote. Also, what I've learned is to pay attention to details. You know, when you're listening to other people's stories, I've also learned to be able to share and break my heart apart. And so you may sit there and think you're going through something worse, but when someone comes out here and says something, you feel like, oh my God, I need to tell my story too. So this project has really opened me up like so much. Yeah. And another big thing was big picture thinking and intersectionality. I think this is a huge asset, important part of being a good leader, you know, seeing all the different walks of life that people come from and not just your own. So through sharing stories, failures and successes, fears, hopes, and desires, community members have realized that they are more similar than they are different. Within the group, similarities and identity journeys overlap. So what someone has said was, sometimes you might think that you're thinking you're in your own marginalized group and disregarding the oppressions of other groups, which actually does not make it fair at all. So we actually have to fight for other marginalized groups as well, and the kinds of systematic oppression, you know, issues of people living with disabilities, or racism and police brutality. You know, so these are all global issues and they overlap with different identities. The last one is honesty and hope. So a lot of the community members have really broken out of their shell, like towards the end of the Dream Academy. From the beginning, you know, till the end, I saw a lot more cameras on, more different kinds of people were speaking. They were more or less shy towards the end. And they really got personal with other people, you know. And outside of the Dream Academy, we noticed a lot of community members reaching out with each other and providing help, that emotional help. So that's kind of like a long-term effect that this has. Okay, so moving forward, a feature of compassionate leadership and initiative. So I feel like despite these so many challenges that community members go through, they're able to see past the injustices that are really done upon them and kind of still see the humility in the whole world. And this, despite the adversity that they face, they're still able to be healers and leaders for others. That's why I think that Safe Place International and the Dream Academy has really used technology to its fullest extent to creating a world with like the most important and genuine leaders here. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chani. Amazing,
Thank
amazing
you.
presentation. As a reminder, if anyone has a question, ping me in the chat, and I'll actually maybe get us started with one for you specifically, Chani. You spoke a lot about creating a safe space, and you mentioned the theme of vulnerability. So I'm just curious, because this takes place in a virtual format, if in the data, or if you're in your experience, if there's anything unique about the virtual format that allows for the creation of this safe space, allows for the creation of the sharing of vulnerability. You mentioned turning screens on towards the end of sessions. Maybe that meant that they weren't on initially, and so maybe that was creating either a barrier or allowing for this vulnerability. So I'm curious if you have anything in the data related to that.
That's a good question. I definitely think that, technology, and with Safe Place being completely online, community members are able to join this space no matter wherever they are, no matter what time they're in. Um, and I feel like it really makes this community accessible to them in that kind of way. I don't know if that answered your question.
You did. You did wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That was absolutely phenomenal. So we will go ahead and turn to our second student presenter. And so Jan, I'll ask that you introduce yourself, share your screen, and take it away.
Yes, thank you, Eric, and thank you, Chandy, for the great presentation. I guess I'll share my screen. Can you all see the screen?
We can.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Ngan Nguyen. I'm a student at a small liberal university in Vietnam, and I major in psychology. So in my presentation today, I will discuss how the Dream Academy functions as a trauma-informed social service. I will also provide a reading of the changes observed in the community members through the lens of the trauma recovery model. So first, I would like to introduce the concept of trauma-informed support. This is an approach in which the service provider, who could be a social worker, a health professional, or a mentor, recognize that trauma has a wide range of impacts, and some of which manifest in ways that we normally wouldn't expect. Trauma-informed support emphasizes the belief that everyone has innate resilience, which allow them to bounce back from trauma to improve their life despite adversities. In practice, the service providers would promote awareness of trauma among their clients. They would also actively avoid and prevent re-traumatization. The trauma recovery model is a roadmap for service providers to support people. And while this model has typically been applied in mental health interventions, I believe that it also reflects the natural changes that take place when a person is healing from trauma. So before any changes can actually take place, it is necessary that a person has all of the basic needs satisfied. So they need to have housing, they need to have food, and a routine in their life first. And the Dream Academy was able to provide those accordingly to the members who require support. And next, after gaining initial stability, the first stage of healing would be the development of trust and building secure, positive relationships with the mentors and peers. I think that Chani did a very good job at explaining how the Dream Academy create a safe space required so that this change can happen. They also offer one-on-one meeting with mentors outside of the class. They have frequent breakout rooms. They use affirmation language, and they also use the very iconic ASL, I love you, as a verbal sign of support. The second stage, as you can see in the pyramid, is actually working through the individual's trauma, particularly processing past experience and grieving what they have lost. In track 2 of the program, the mentors provided the members with knowledge regarding the LGBTQ community, about race, intersectionality, human rights, and inequality. The purpose is to facilitate understanding of oneself in the context of history and culture. And throughout the entire program, social emotional development also took place during activities that encourage reflections and sharing with other members. The third stage is gaining understanding of oneself. This means being aware of one's own behavior and emotions, gaining self-acceptance, and connecting the past and the present to have a more balanced self-narrative. The program supported this change by having guest speakers who share their own journeys of healing from trauma, by having reflection and discussion time, doing mind body exercises, which Chani also talked about, and also emphasizing the importance of self-care. The fourth stage is actually gaining confidence in one's abilities and gaining a sense of direction in life. And the Dream Academy supported this by providing the members with practical skills for success. This happened in track 4 of the program. For example, there was training on project development, time management, communication, and also self-expression and other creative outlets. The fifth stage, but not the final stage, is moving on. Now that the individual has gained substantial confidence and autonomy, they are more ready to take further steps to make life better, and to make the world better as well. But do notice how I mentioned that this is not the actual final stage. This is because the journey of healing from trauma is almost never linear. And sometimes we take 2 steps ahead and 1 step back. And maybe one can say that we never truly fully recover 100%. And that is completely all right because it is supposed to be an ongoing process. And now that we have a somewhat good understanding of the process of healing from trauma and how the Dream Academy has supported that process, I would like to dedicate the second half of the presentation to show you some quotes from the community members who were incredibly generous in allowing us some insight into their experience. So here you can see on the screen. Oh, sorry. One member mentioned that through all these people that we have been having, through even you, Justin, Mama E, all the leaders that have been talking, they've been giving me hope each and every day. And now they have actually changed a lot of things. And also the way I see life now is totally different. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. First of all, I really want to thank another community member because for me, in the past 3 weeks, I noticed that my self-esteem, rather my confidence is a bit down. And I really thank him for encouraging me and appreciating me for showing up for myself. And at least I feel I've been showing up for myself. And on the other hand, I was never coming out for myself. And like according to the work I do for the community, according to what I do there, it's seen and at least it is a sign that I am confident in myself. Thank you. On to the next step, some examples were, and I just remember being a kid and I would do something, something that a kid would do or something silly and just getting hit, and I hated it. I never understood why would you do that to me, I'm just so small, I can't really fend for myself. I can tell you that I don't like this because then you yell at me because I don't like it. And it just reinforced a lot of negative message. You get hit and they're like, I'm doing this because I love you. I'm doing this because I care about you. I'm doing this because I want you to be better or to do better. And then it just screw you up because love is supposed to hurt. People who love me are supposed to hit me. They are supposed to hurt me. Things aren't supposed to be natural. They are supposed to feel good. Our friends are killed. Our families are gone. Some of us have been ostracized by our family, by the person we call family. The scariest thing was me losing my mom, missing the flames of fire burning. I couldn't cope with this truth. It is noted that during the second step of healing from trauma, which is processing the past experience and grieving losses, the members were incredibly brave in sharing all of these details because I know that it's really hard to open up and to trust others and stuff enough to share all of this. So it is a big thank you to them. For the third stage, which is gaining awareness, we have some quotes. I also want to acknowledge or cherish the way that we talk about self-love. I was a person who didn't really love himself, so I can say love his body. But I also realized that I must love myself for me to be able to love other people. we were talking about saying you're the most important person in the world more than anyone else, and the importance of self-love and self-care. Because if you want to find love, the source of love is not outside, and I have to find it first within myself, and then share what I found to others. Another member shared that I'm an artist, I love art, I do painting, I love music. I don't have to go explain to, anybody out there that, yes, I need to be seen, I need to be heard, but it is not what has to define me being a trans woman or a trans man. For the fourth stage, which is future planning, I observed some members really expressing their confidence, and some even found a sense of purpose during the program. For example, doing more social work or being a community leader for their own community. One person said, I did something that I didn't know I could do. Me coming out of my comfort zone, it made me realize that I've been missing out some things. There are some things that have been jumping my eyes about myself, but I really saw myself as I can mobilize people when I'm on the right thing. I can do each and everything to make the ends meet. Another person shared, some of them say how they flee from their country thinking they will find peace when they came, but this was happening to them. And I told them everything that happened to me, we not only facing the challenge, but we learn from the challenge and now we overcome. So I was a victim. Right now, I identify them and give them hope. And of course, as I mentioned before, we still have the fifth step, which is to move on. And that is a long journey ahead for the community members to work on self. However, I know that I speak on behalf of all of us that we have great faith in them and we wish them the best of luck. So these are some of the conclusions that I have. Despite the virtual setting, the Dream Academy was able to create a safe space and support close connection among the members. There are observable changes within the members throughout the program, especially in gaining self-awareness and personal direction. I believe that the Dream Academy can improve by making more intentional initiatives toward providing trauma-informed support. In particular, I think it will be important to provide more information on the signs and effects of trauma, as well as the tools to cope with it. To encourage the use of mental health support service, which I know is already being offered at Safe Space International. And finally, is to provide ongoing support beyond the graduation. So it is important that we accompany the community members even after the program has ended, even when they have reached the fifth stage of healing from trauma. So I guess that is it for my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I guess I will welcome any question.
Thank you, Nan. Amazing job. The question that we have is, you did a great job of introducing this data through the trauma recovery model. And I think that you really laid out evidence very clearly related to that model. But the question is, was there anything surprising that surprised you personally that you learned from your research with the Dream Academy?
Yes, I think one of it was, I think that the Dream Academy was created without having any intentions of following any kind of models, especially some so packed in theory like this one. But then I ended up finding a lot of similarities between the results that we found and then the theory of the model itself. So I thought that that was surprising. Another one that I found surprising was why the virtual setting of the program may have been especially beneficial for creating a sense of community among the members. Because the thing is, if you are a member of the LGBTQ community, but you are Caucasian or you are Latino, then you would likely be able to find support, or you would be able to bond with other LGBT community within your area, because you would have more access to social activities and all of that. But then for Black and people of color who are in the LGBT community, they find it much harder to bond with just an average queer person, because they have very different experience, and they usually bond specifically with other people of color. And in this case, it is very hard for them to find a community because they are scattered around the world. And I think the online setting kind of bridged that kind of physical gap, and they were brought together in an unexpected way. So yeah.
Thank you, Nan. We did have a question come in from Lisa. Lisa, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank you both for your presentations. And I just had this question. Do you have any ideas of how the support for community members could be articulated post-graduation? Because as you mentioned, it could be very interesting and important, but of course, yeah, I was just wondering, do you have personally any ideas how this could work?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. So I think there are two parts to my answer. The first is what the Dream Academy has already been doing. I think Justin, who is the founder of SBI, mentioned that they didn't want to just give the community members knowledge and then let them to fend for themselves on their own. So they actually made good on their words and continued working with some members, continue employing some of the members. And I think some community members are actually working in Safe Space International, or they are working at other organizations via referrals or via introductions by the SBI themselves. So I think that is one thing. I think another thing that we could definitely do is having checkups or like check-ins. For example, a couple months we can contact the community members and say if they want to meet up for a quick update on how they've been, and see if they have any struggles and what we can do. I think those would be really helpful. Oh, thank you for the question.
Sherry, you might be able to follow up with that a bit more on what's happening with some of the past graduates.
Sure. So there are a couple of things that we do. So one, we are actually working with Salesforce right now to start a mentorship program for the community members who have graduated, so that they are learning new skills and are in touch and are getting support from professionals to learn new things and find out opportunities for themselves. The other thing is Safe Place International gives seed funding for some of the projects that the community members want to do on their own. So as Nyan shared and as Johnny shared in their presentations, we do a 1 week of project planning where all the community members come in with their passion project and a business plan for how they want to implement this. And then based on the project plans that they submit, some of the projects are actually funded by Safe Place International, which then go on to become a sustainable project that is supporting not just one person, but multiple people or an entire safe house. And again, most of them are also recruited within SPI and a Safe Place Greece, which is also a part of Safe Place International. And some of the community members also work with other organizations and local partners that we have on the ground.
I just want to add briefly that some of the graduates have gone on for school. They've been able to retrieve documentation. Many of them fled their homelands without having any of their documentation, have been able to get that documentation and have entered universities and additional training. Some of them have relocated to other countries. We have some of our graduates who are now in Canada, who have been much more receptive to the Dream Academy members coming in for employment purposes. We also have some in the United States.
Thank you all for that context, and Jan, amazing presentation, and thank you for the questions. So we will turn to our final student presenter. Mario, I'll ask that you share your screen, introduce yourself and your work.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen in just a second. Let me know if you guys can see it. Okay, how does that look?
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Mario Villegas. I am a senior at the University of South Florida. I am studying political science with a minor in economics, and I, like Chani and Jan, were one of the many student researchers that took part in researching the Dream Academy and its effects on community members. For today, I'm going to be specifically talking about and focusing on alienation that community members felt during their asylum-seeking journey. Whether it was felt in their home country or once they arrived in their host country, alienation seems to linger around to some certain degree, right? A common misconception is that once a refugee successfully seeks asylum, many of the problems that they were facing in their home country just seems to be no longer present in the host country. But unfortunately, that isn't always the case. But we'll get more into that in just a quick second. I just want to say that I was inspired to promulgate my findings on alienation after writing a literature review draft with Dr. Devin Thornburg on the topic. There are many ways to interpret the causes of alienation, and I believe it differs between different disciplines. But before I get right into alienation itself, I want to talk about my general findings on the track that I personally was researching in the Dream Academy. So I studied track 2, which Chani and Yang touched on a little bit, but it was understanding oneself in the context of history and culture. The lessons I researched largely revolved around the discussion of human rights laws, equity, and collective growth and privilege. This topic is important because it puts into context why inequities and marginalization happen in certain areas, some more so than others. It is paramount to recognize that marginalization and inequities do not have to be quotidian or innate to everyday life. Previous institutions and social norms, no matter how repugnant they may be, are also responsible for why certain countries respect certain rights more so than others. That is the idea that I got behind the track I researched, and the common themes that were prominent in those lessons are the themes that you're seeing on screen right now. Community members felt that unity was necessary to advance international human rights. For community members, there was seldom a path forward for human rights unless we could all get together and agree to push for them. Human rights are always changing. What was considered human rights just 50 years ago, even 10 years ago, would not apply by today's standards. So therefore, we must agree on and fight for universal rights together. Freedom was a common trait also that community members yearned for, to be accepted for who they are no matter what and not be tied down by society's socially constructed chains. Discriminatory legislation is not the only way to take away someone's freedom. The norms that surround the country can do just the same. Marginalization was unfortunately nearly ubiquitous for community members to varying degrees. No one's story was the same, of course, but they all felt mistreated and neglected by the system and people around them. But no matter the setbacks, community members frequently talked about their own purpose in life. Despite the hardship, they were able to rise above it all. The uplifting and motivating mentors in the Dream Academy were surely key in this area, and it was wonderful to see the development of community members in the Dream Academy. And again, Nian and Chani talked more about that, so I don't want to repeat their findings, but it was great to see their development. Okay, so now on to alienation itself. So we're going to start off with exactly what alienation is, what the definition is. So that is the state or experience of being isolated from a group or an activity to which one should belong or in which one should be involved in. Now, this definition is one that we're all familiar with, and I don't think anybody would disagree with it entirely, but I wanted to dig deeper as to how different disciplines would interpret the alienation that people feel. The interest came from my fellow researchers, actually. We all have a diverse background, and we're all approaching this project with a different lens, whether we realize it or not. I wanted to know more about how those lenses differ from one another, and inevitably how we all come back to the same conclusion, in this instance being alienation. Surely different disciplines will agree on the definition, but the causes, the why, is what I believe can differ. I chose these disciplines on screen: sociology, psychology, and political science, to look at. In terms of each discipline's causes of alienation, sociologists may look at human relationships, such as friends and family members, as causes of alienation, whereas psychologists may look at state of mind and behavior, such as depression and anxiety, more internal factors overall. Finally, political scientists may look at institutions, specifically how weak or strong they may be, and their effect on isolation. A despotic regime that limits mobility and acts punitively towards their people will be able to inflict more alienated feelings than a democratic regime that allows for more freedom and movement. So now that we have a brief overview of the ways different disciplines may view alienation and what alienation is, I want to take a look at some examples that I came across from the Dream Academy that can help underscore my findings. So here's some examples that within the track that I was researching, again, track 2, that helped elucidate my thoughts. The first quote is as follows: "The person is my dad. Growing up, he was just so strict and just so hard. He was just a father to me and my siblings, but then he met my mom, got divorced, and remarried. What's so painful for me is that I watched him being a dad to my siblings. It's so painful. He is to them what I always wanted." So this session had mentors speaking about the hardships that they have felt with inclusion. This community member talks about their relationship with their father and how it caused them to feel unwelcomed in their eyes. Coupled with their father acting like a dad to their own siblings, it made the lack of inclusion, or alienation in this instance, feel even stronger. The quote inexperience fits the sociological perspective on alienation, since the problem stems and is exacerbated from the relationship with their father. The second quote is as follows: "People are dying with depression just because they don't have anyone to say whatever they are experiencing in their daily lives." Much of the discussion in this lesson was about broad topics such as diversity, equity, and human rights laws. This community member speaks about the general issue of depression and suicide. The loneliness that people feel causes them to feel depressed and commit suicide because there is no one to speak to. This quote fits the psychological perspective, since the community member speaks about depression caused from alienation. And lastly, the last quote is as follows: "I came here in 2007, and I certainly am not properly documented. So it gives me an advantage. It gives me a disadvantage of me even going to public schools. When we talk about even trying to get yourself in the street or anything of this sort, they also want to check your documentation. Then they have to check if your paperwork is right or correct." This comes from the same lesson as the previous quote, in which the discussion still revolved around equality, equity, and lack thereof. This community member speaks about how they do not have access to certain institutions because of a lack of documentation. Constant denial of institutions such as schools, and medical care can inevitably lead to a feeling of isolation, especially if those institutions can help with a sense of belonging, like public school, as demonstrated in the quote. This quote fits the political science perspective, since there is a denial of an institution which can preclude the ability to feel welcomed in a community. And just to wrap things up, and just some conclusions, alienation is a common feeling that community members felt. Regardless of the lens utilized, this was a serious feeling that was seen with many community members, and it needs to be addressed. These lenses will assist in analyzing how we can find a solution, but we need to be cognizant of the problem in the first place to ever get to any solution. Without being aware of the problem, we're never going to be able to fix it. COVID-19 worsened this feeling. Chani spoke about this already, but the pandemic unequivocally played a role in prolonging the effects of alienation. Just some examples: quarantining, work from home, social distancing. It's moreover how this pandemic added to the isolation that community members felt, but nonetheless, it happened, it's still going on, and it is absolutely contributing to any alienated or isolated feelings that community members felt or are currently feeling. And lastly, the Dream Academy aims to mitigate this issue. Again, Chani also spoke about this as well, so I won't go into too much detail here. And it was a great presentation, so was Nyan's. So I will just add that the Dream Academy helped to ease the feeling of isolation by being online, because it gave community members an outlet to speak and be a part of a loving community, as you have all heard with the previous presentations. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mario. Wonderful presentation. Really interesting to hear the interdisciplinary perspectives on alienation, especially those of us in academia who can be so siloed in our one discipline. To hear sort of this perspective was really helpful, and I feel like I've learned quite a bit. One question, from the sociological and political science standpoint versus the psychological, it kind of seems like poli-sci and sociology are talking about some of the causes of alienation or the structural issues with alienation, and maybe psychology is the outcomes that come from alienation. Do you think that that's a fair assessment of the different perspectives?
Yeah, for sure. That's actually what I've noticed within the comments that community members were talking about, that sociology for sure and political science definitely, that is more the cause and psychology is more the effect. And I also noticed that it's not, it doesn't have to be so, excuse the pun, but like quarantined into each one, right? It's obviously going to have some intersectionality between each discipline. So that was also something I noticed, that it doesn't always have to be just the sociological perspective or just the political science perspective, but it can be more than one. It can be 3, 4 disciplines that I didn't talk about in the presentation.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And I think quarantine is the perfect pun for our world right now, so it was well done. So well done to all 3 of our students. It was 3 wonderful presentations. They put a lot of time and effort into that. So I think all 3 of you are to be commended, and truly, truly thank you for providing those insights for us. So what we're going to do now is actually turn to hear from the perspectives of 2 individuals who have very intimate knowledge of SPI and of the Dream Academy specifically. So what I'll do is read a brief introduction for both of them, and then let them join into the conversation and discuss their experiences with the Dream Academy and with SPI. Our first guest is David, who is an aspiring gay asylum seeker from Cameroon, whose difficult path to freedom in Europe has made him a passionate supporter of the LGBTQIA+ refugee community across the world. While waiting for his asylum application to be processed, he continues to passionately support all of the grassroots efforts of SPI and make sure everyone from his community feels safe, seen, and respected. So welcome, David. Our second guest is Dali, who is a gender non-conforming asylum seeker who currently lives in Nairobi. They are a trained orthopedic technician, a passionate queer rights activist, and a feminist. We love a feminist and an activist, it's wonderful. They currently work with the Foundation for LBQ Women Refugees, which aims to elevate and advocate for the rights and well-being of LGBTQIA+ refugees who are living in Kenya. Dali also serves as the Director of Global Family Initiative at SPI, and their great passion for LGBTQIA+ community work traces back to their own experiences as an all-out queer person who had to flee home to save their life from injustice. So welcome to you both, and I will turn the Zoom floor over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm happy to be on this platform. Well, what do you want to hear? I think it would be better if I get questions about the Dream Academy and my experience there. It would really give me direction on what to say, because Dream Academy has been there now. This is the third class. So if I start talking about it, it would really like, I lose direction on what exactly I should tell you about. But to start with, I was one of the very first students of the Dream Academy. And when they had just told us about it, I was like, okay, they were talking leadership training. And then I get in this class and they're asking us to check in. They are asking us to breathe. At first I felt uncomfortable, and I was like, well, I come for a leadership training class. And I don't think when I get in a class, I'm supposed to be asked to breathe or like have to be asked to open its breathe. I didn't see the connection between that and the leadership skills I was hoping to get. But with time, I understood that that's where it would all start as a leader, because mostly if you're a leader, you are leading people who are in similar situations with you. There are things that are common. For example, I'm an asylum seeker. So the community I lead is mostly made up of asylum seekers. So the issues I find as a person are not different from what my peers face. And so that experience of getting to the Dream Academy, and then before they get you into this marathon of leadership courses and topics, they take care of you as a person, like trying to connect your mind, your body, your emotions before you can offer yourself out there as a leader. So that's one thing that stood out. We actually had, most of us didn't understand that at first. We wanted to just go there and a tutor comes in, tells us ABC, qualities of a good leader, but then like they took care of our emotions and the trauma. And also the choice of the topics that come through, like I acknowledge the fact that the Dream Academy, the courses are not like cast in stone, where when we get into a class and then the people who are facilitating it feel there's something else going on, we handle that first before we can go on with the other scheduled courses. And also what I got from the Dream Academy as a person was more of the confidence. I was already a leader, but then joining Dream Academy, there's a level of confidence they instilled in me, because they gave us this trust within ourselves, because we didn't met Justine in person, but here was a person who was telling us, we are doing that. Can you bring in students who would like to join? Even when we needed like facilitation, like if we needed devices, he would just say, okay, can you go and get the devices? Is it possible to find them there? So that made us like feel very confident, and that trust that the Dream Academy founders like put in us can't be like matched. And then from there, they did drop us because we had to apply for like jobs, I should say jobs or positions within. For example, us as the first graduates, we had to assist for the next class so that we bring in the vibe in the class, since we've been there and these are new students, so would assist the tutors and facilitators to help with the next classes. And eventually we got positions. We had a chance to apply for positions that had a stipend, because as refugees here, we can't get into mainstream employment. So having the Safe Place International providing those job opportunities where I can comfortably get paid without having to worry that this person is going to say you are a refugee, so even if I don't pay you for the job, you're not going to report me anywhere, and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know, any questions so that I can, because I can talk about the Dream Academy for hours.
Dali, I have a question actually, just really briefly. You heard these three presentations, very different focuses, reflecting, I think, the different perspectives from our three students. Any sense of validating what they had to say about the experience of going through the Dream Academy? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would like to start with Marion's presentation. when he was talking about the alienation, and then the fact that when we are here, we feel when we go to our third countries or when we get resettled to other countries, like the hustle is over. I have to use that word, like we feel that maybe if I leave this place and maybe go to Canada, that would be it. Yeah, it's not the case for most of the countries. Yeah, and then also I want to acknowledge the fact that when these people join the classes, they take care to learn, because it was reflective in the presentations they made. Because sometimes when they introduce that this one is here and we feel maybe these people are just looking at us or maybe mocking, or so the presentations like reflected what really happens in the Dream Academy. And then them not being like members or students of the Dream Academy, and neither they refugees, and they just, you know, they would have done research on something else. Yeah, but taking interest in the Dream Academy and how it's important to the marginalized queer community, yeah, I applaud them. They spelled out everything so nicely. At least I got a chance to see it from someone else's lenses, because me, I'm there. So if this person can also reflect that, then it's very powerful. Yes, thank you so much. If there are no any other questions, I think I'll have to hand over to David.
As they always say, breathe in and out. I think that's the first thing I learned from the Dream Academy, to breathe in. Whenever you're nervous, you breathe in and you breathe out. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm called David from Cameroon, and I'm an asylum seeker here in Athens in Greece. Believe me, I'm so happy today to be in this platform because I get to see people talking about the Dream Academy. I don't know if there are students, there have been students from the Dream Academy, but thank you so much, Shani. Thank you so much, Gan. Thank you so much, Mari, for your presentation. That was such an amazing one. Believe me, I'm also a student, a graduate from the Dream Academy. And before joining the Dream Academy, I'd gone through all of this, all of what you guys were saying. I was under post-traumatic stress. My mental health was really, really down. And when I joined the Dream Academy, I joined the Dream Academy because I wanted, maybe I was going into their housing, because at first Safe Place was providing housing, and I really didn't like, what is the Dream Academy all about? But when I came in contact with these beautiful souls, I call them beautiful souls, because I'm someone that I grew up in an environment where I was never shown love. I was just by myself, and I never knew love even exists. Like, outside of the world, people might be there to love me up, to show, like, if I show up, they'll love me. I'm like, say, you're beautiful, you're who you are, this is you. So this gave me a lot of relief. So this program, the Dream Academy, has really empowered me, and I see how it has empowered refugees. I, for one, I really speak for myself, because at first, English language it's not my first language, but yeah, speaking like today in front of great presenters that just did. So I learned a lot, and everything you say today has really it really happened to me, because I'm a living testimony. I got tools from Rich and Yvonne, like, there's no such thing as a bad kid. As parents, you guys, as parents, as we all are, maybe so most of you are, I would say you never ever wanted to give birth to a child to become someone with whom you will reject tomorrow. Like, I want to give birth to this child, I want to give birth to an LGBTQI child, or no one wants to choose to say, I want to be an LGBTQI man or woman, or a gay man or a lesbian man, that will always be rejected, suppressed, under pressure, or some kind of tension. There's no such person who wants to be in that kind of a situation. So being who we are and being vulnerable, I think we need so much love. And this is what the Dream Academy has brought for us. It has given us a lot of courage. It has given us a lot of happiness. The way the platform has made has made us confidence in our own self. I, for one, I was really like I'd never known what as I say what love was all about. It has also taught me a lot, leaving my comfort zone to see that I make people happy. Like I go as far as possible to see that I help other people. Because if I had taken on my own self, like the way I grow, I know nobody loves me, maybe I would have said, okay, I will never help other people too. But right now, here am I helping people today. I'm going as far as I'm going to the street, leaving my comfort zone to see that each day I make one person happy. And that is due to the Dream Academy. I really do appreciate this platform too, because of there are some activities that we do in the Dream Academy. It's all about appreciation. Like I could see you, I feel you, like I appreciate you for who you are. And this has really taught me a lot to see that no matter how small you appreciate someone, just to say thank you, it really matters. Or it has really made me to know that I am beautiful. Because sometimes I get these words from Rich and Yvonne. Hey, Lionel, you are beautiful. I get this every day from Devin. Hey, Lionel, you are beautiful. So that's also made me to build confidence for myself. And I know that I am beautiful. At first, I knew I was not beautiful and no one cares about me. But here am I today, people telling me I'm beautiful. And move forward, at first, I kept my stories to myself, and I said I'm not going to share my story to anyone because no one will believe me or no one will say this is where you're coming from. But when I get into this program, I got people sharing their stories, and I was like, there was this one story I will never forget. This beautiful lady, Dean, when she shared her story, I was in tears. I was like, what? If this person is going through this process, then who are you not to share your story? Believe me, I was in tears, but I had to give what was inside of me. I had to go below the waterline. And I said, no, Lionel, you have to say this. And once I gave this out, believe me, I felt a little bit of relief. I felt so much relief in me. And stepping up, and I said, okay, this is me right now. I said, okay, you need to leave everything that has passed. I have to be a leader today. And I've been there with Justin, Yvonne, and Rich, Sheriff, and it landed me to where I am today, the Community Director for Safe Place Greece. And I promised myself to say, I'm going to move forward and forward because I know I have a lot of lives to change. No matter that I started, and because I really didn't go to school because it's just, we lived our country, refugees, maybe we didn't really go to school that much. But here am I today trying to see that I come out outstanding to take care of my community, especially the LGBTQI community. Thank you so much. If there's any question, I'll be really glad to answer because it means a lot to me.
I have a question for both you and Dolly too. I guess, what is one of your long-term goals for the future?
Dolly, will you go first?
Yeah, just to be clear, as a person or?
Yep, anything.
Anything. First, for the Dream Academy, the vision I have for it and the dream I have for it is for the Dream Academy to become a fellowship where people know that in March or April to July is this fellowship of the Dream Academy, and someone has to apply to get into the academy, and for it to also become like something someone can talk about or add on their profile that, I attended the Dream Academy in the year this and this. Yeah, so that's my dream for the Dream Academy. And then as a person, wow, it's a secret, but I'm happy to tell. I have to be the premier of Canada. Like, I don't know, I feel I have to be resettled there. And when I get there, yes, I'm going to take the seat and smash the table. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, that was a great one, Dali. Beautiful one, Dali. Sorry. For me, I will say I will want to be an international um, peacekeeping worker because I really want to really not only increase because I see a lot of people like they reach out to me like in Africa, in Kenya, Uganda, especially in Africa. I really want to work more with Africans because I think the situation for LGBTQI people back home in Africa is really worst because I get to see them every day and they get to contact me every day. Like, hey, how is the situation here back here in Europe? And I always tell them it's good, but not really the best because you should not think that everything is easy. But what I know is you are protected and you are safe. So I really want to work. I want to, if I might get myself to be with the UN, like to see that I speak to people every day to encourage them, like to let them know that they are not alone. Still, I got this from the Gym Academy, like you are not alone. We see you, we hear you. That's, I want to be with them, like to be in them. Every time I don't sleep at night, I just call people like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? You're beautiful. I need to hug them. I just want to be with them. I don't want to be in, like, I don't want to go to the United States to see people like living big or whatnot. I just want to be with my community, especially the most vulnerable ones. I want to be in their shoes. I want to feel their pain, to see that I help them, to see that I hear them, I love them up, and I hug them too. That's the word. I just hug them and say you're beautiful. Thank you.
If it's okay, can I have a question as well?
Yeah.
So this is for both David and Zali. I want to ask if when you first joined the Dream Academy, did you feel any kind of cultural difference between you and your mentors? Because I think Dali mentioned that they found the breathing exercise very strange at first. I have the same experience. I went to an educational program with people in the US, and I thought that that kind of breathing exercise was very useless and such a white people thing to do, and I couldn't understand it at first. So did you feel any kind of cultural difference, and do you feel like that still exists now? And how did you deal with that? Yeah.
Well, you know, when I had first joined the Dream Academy, like I felt very uncomfortable with the way like appreciation was thrown at me and all the love. It really made me feel uncomfortable. There's a very sweet lady called Mama E. You know, even when we met after classes with other people here would like talk about it and be like, what, how do you tell everyone you love them? Because we would even imitate her and be like, oh, sweetheart, how are you doing? It's good to see you. And we felt it was really, we didn't feel like it was real. Like we felt no one can have that kind of love thrown out like that. So that was very, very uncomfortable. Yeah, and then those things of appreciation, like thank you, like I hear you. Those were not words that we often had or get to hear. Yeah, so it was it was very, very uncomfortable for me until I learned to do it and actually feel it. For the times when we were learning this sign, we at first we did mean it. We would be like, okay, it's because Devin has thrown it out there, but now we got to learn. But it's real. Like you can love a stranger, you can connect energies with someone you've just met. yeah, that was the most uncomfortable when I just joined Dream Academy. David.
For me, I would say when I joined the Dream Academy, permit me to use the word, what the fuck is this white people doing here? What are they trying to tell us? I was like, this is not true. Like, I don't believe there is something like, I love you, I feel, I hear you. Believe me, I was like, no way. These people are just playing their way around. Like, but when I came, what I discovered was how the love was too big and the connection I had with them. Then the one thing that really made me to give out my all to them was when they came to Athens in Greece. Believe me, Devon was such an amazing person. The love was so big. It was really on, oh my God, I can't say it. Yvonne had to hold us, and I see, because I am someone who believes in racism, because I believe this. I said, what the fuck, these white people are, they pretend to like us. For me, I said, I really can give in my all because they are just playing around. But when I saw David, when I saw Yvonne, Rich, oh my God, they had to hug me, like they had to hug me so tight, and like, I love you, and I felt the connection with them. That's when I said, okay, really, this is where I belong. I am home. I feel safe, and I am confident right now to say, no, the Dream Academy is a place to be. That was my first time I had to go out there, start looking for, like, hey, come on, LGBTQ brothers, you guys are safe. We have a home. We have people who will love us and show. I really can't tell you how much I feel right now, because whenever I look at Devin, I feel like shedding tears, because his love is so big, believe me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, David and Dolly, for sharing your story and experiences with us today. I think it was a great way to start to draw this session to an end. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Jody McBrien, who will provide some concluding thoughts and wrap up our session today. And you're muted, Jody.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I know we're over time, and I appreciate everyone staying with us, because I think all of these presentations were so valuable and important. So just as a brief overview, Chani's overview of the themes and intersectionality, and recognizing, the kind of movement leading to hope, and from there on to leadership is so important to the Academy. And then going on to Nyan's presentation on trust and relationship building, and the movement of members working through trauma to insight and awareness, and that growth that comes from that. Mario's presentation on alienation and track 2, and understanding oneself in history and culture, the need for unity in human rights, and the problem of marginalization. And as I saw through all of these presentations, the importance of interdisciplinary team research and the diversity of ways in which our team members saw importance in the themes that are presented through these many hours that they transcribed of the videos of the Dream Academy are just critically important. And I'm very, very excited that we're going to, publish this information so that a wider community can get to see it. Dolly, thank you so much for talking about gratitude and trust in the Dream Academy, and finding resources, and how the graduates help other graduates get, and the importance of the Dream Academy in providing positions for members. David, never knowing about love, oh gosh, and needing to be who we all are, and the opportunity that the Dream Academy allows for that. And, I also so appreciate the fact that it really doesn't matter if we are gay, we are straight, LGBTQ, straight. I'm straight. Who cares? Doesn't matter, you know, because we're all in this together, and we're all recognizing each other as fully important human beings that deserve respect, that deserve to have everything that is important in human rights. And this whole project for me has just been so moving. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it, and to be a part of the Dream Academy, to be a part of these remarkable students, to be working with Devin and Sherry and all of the Dream Academy participants. And so thank you. Thank you for being here and sharing your insights. And yeah. And so we will go forward, and we will keep you posted, and we will keep you posted on our research and our publications. And thank you for being a part of our work today.